If you're just joining us, well, the next 1 hour of conversation today is World Tsunami Awareness Day, and we're looking at a Lagos overview and the risk of submergence. Also, red alert was given just yesterday by the federal government to some states regarding to flooding. We'll be talking about this for the next hour. I'm particularly interested, like I said, if you're in Lagos, what areas have already been submerged? What areas should you be wary of buying property for fear of submergence, if any at all? Could there be a tsunami in Lagos, being a coastal city? All of this conversation will go on for the next hour. We'll be joined by Engineer Clement Nze, Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. He'll be joining us from Abuja, and you can watch him live on Facebook and YouTube. Also listen to him on your radio once he joins us. Joy Kaliu, our correspondent, has gone out into the heart of Lagos to bring us a report live from there. We'll be looking at flooding in areas of Lagos, and you will be able to see this also if you're joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Mr. Desmond Majakodum is an environmental activist and the founder Lufasi Nature Park. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining the show.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. You're all welcome. Remember that you can tweet at us at Nigeria Info FM. WhatsApp number is 08095975805. I am Wemimo Adewuni. You're welcome.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. You can watch us live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You can send us your messages on WhatsApp as well, on the numbers called out earlier. It's going to be an interesting conversation because what you don't know, you might just get to know all of those things. Is Lagos at risk of a tsunami? We said that earlier, and I guess earlier said no. Lagos can be at risk of a tsunami. But we'll find out later on the show. World Tsunami Awareness Day was the brainchild of Japan, which, due to its repeated bitter experience, has over the years built up major expertise in areas such as tsunami early warning, public action, and building back better after a disaster to reduce future impact. Meanwhile, by the year 2030, an estimated 50% of the world's population will live in coastal areas exposed to flooding. They will live in areas exposed to storms and tsunami. This is according to the United Nations, not our words. The United Nations also reports that in the past 100 years, 58 tsunamis have claimed more than 260,000 lives, or an average of 4,600 per disaster, surpassing any other natural hazard you may want to know or you may want to call, with the Indian Ocean tsunami of December 2004 being the occurrence with the highest number of deaths, causing an estimated 227,000 fatalities in 14 countries, with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand hardest hit. 3 weeks after the 2004 disaster, the international community came together in Kobe, Japan, where governments adopted the 10-year Hyogo Framework for Action, the first comprehensive global agreement on disaster risk reduction. Where is Nigeria in all of this? The Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System, which boasts scores of seismographic and sea level monitoring stations and disseminate alerts, the National Tsunami Information Centers, was also created at that time. November 5 was designated as World Tsunami Awareness Day, hence the discussion this morning.
Well, if you're still wondering where Nigeria is on this map, according to the World Economic Forum, some 11 countries are sinking and face the danger of disappearance. Which cities are these? Jakarta in Indonesia, Lagos in Nigeria. Yes, you heard that right.
Right.
Houston, Texas, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Venice in Italy, Virginia Beach in Virginia, Bangkok in Thailand, New Orleans, Louisiana, Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Alexandria in Egypt, Miami in Florida. So let's just stay with Nigeria. And Lagos is on the map for a city that is already sinking.
City.
Yes.
Wow.
And faces a danger of disappearance. That's why Mr. Majakodum is here. Mr. Majakodum, let me take a thought from you before we join Joy, who is standing by right now in Lagos. I mean, let me just ask you, you're the experts. Is this just a scare, or do you believe that it is fact?
Well, it's as much of a scare as if you were in your house and smoke started emanating from the roof, and people warned you that, hey, your house looks like it's about to catch fire. That's how real this situation is. The scientists that are giving these warnings have been studying this for decades. These major warnings of the inundation of coastal cities like Lagos came specifically from the International Panel for Climate Change and the World Meteorological Organization, which are all linked to the United Nations, and they all have access to a plethora of information. And they made it very, very clear. And just recently, Goldman Sachs, which is one of the most revered economic investment bodies, has also claimed categorically that Lagos is at risk. Now, we in the environmental sector have known this for some time. And I personally, over 10 years ago, on celebrating a landmark birthday, made a clarion call. In fact, we made a demonstration to the coast of Lagos, calling upon the federal government to please, please, please allocate ecological fund money to Lagos to protect her coastline, which is actually officially under the jurisdiction of the federal. 100 meters from the sea is actually federal territory. 10 years later, we're still waiting for ecological fund money to come and help Lagos.
No response whatsoever from the federal government since then.
Well, interestingly, what happened was that the president himself came at that time, Goodluck Jonathan. He actually came and said, yeah, we must do something. And we believe he gave instructions to a couple of his agencies that, yes, something must be done to protect the Lagos coast. Nothing was done from federal. And it was up to the Lagos state government under the governance of Fashola that actually started putting groins. And then we had this Eco Atlantic, which protected the Barbie. But the problem has not been solved, and the problem is not being mitigated. A little bit of adaptation has taken place. We are asking, why has the ecological fund money not come?
Mr. Desmond, yes, Lagos is sinking. Lagos might just disappear. It's there. It's not our words. It's not your word, like you mentioned earlier. These are the words of scientists world over. And it's not just Lagos alone. What can be done in the immediate? What can we do?
I'm glad you asked that question. Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is just to understand, why is this happening? Because, every action, obviously, it comes with a thought process.
Right.
And we have to understand, why is this happening? And the main reason it's happening is because we as Lagosians, we as Nigerians, we as Africans, we as Homo sapiens inhabiting planet Earth have had a totally wrong attitude towards nature, towards the creation. We've taken the stewardship, the dominion of creation in a totally wrong tangent and looked on it as if, okay, we can exploit, we can do whatever we want, we can pour any amount of pollution into the atmosphere that causes global warming, which causes climate change, which is the main cause of this problem of the sea rise. Lagos shouldn't be sinking. There are specific things we have done just on our own coastline, and that is just inundating the mangrove swamps, which is part of what nature has put in place to protect the coast. You have these massive mangrove swamps, which, protect the coast from, wave forms, from these floods and so on. We've been sand filling them anyhow, willy-nilly, without putting in place the kind of measures that are necessary. If you're going to sand fill, then you have to replace what nature was doing. So we need to get the mindset right. We need to care for the creation, look after nature, and do the right things. Don't just
we'll talk about the details of the right things that we need to do, but let's paint a better picture for you. If you're watching us online right now, good for you. If you're not, what are you waiting for? Head over to Facebook or YouTube and you can watch us now. We're joined by Joy Carly, our correspondent. Joy, good morning.
morning, Wemimo.
Well, Joy is standing by at Adewuni, that's a place in Lagos State, where she's speaking with the community there on flooding and how it has affected that community. If you're watching us live, that means you should be able to watch. You'll be able to watch Joy right now and see that community, and also see the environment and see the people who'll be speaking with us. Joy, take it on.
Yeah, this is one of the waterfront communities on the Lagos Island. It is called Adele community. And I'm standing at the phase 3 of this community. Now, the houses here have been submerged in water as a result of land reclamation by the state government. After the land reclamation have been done, the water channeled into this estate. It is indeed a sad one. The buildings here are not looking good at all. If nothing is done, they can even collapse. Now, when the water channels into this estate, it doesn't just come as water alone. It comes with waste. It discharges waste into this place. And from what the community members are telling me, they said that for over a year, they have not felt the presence of the agencies that are in charge of discharging waste from this community. They haven't seen them. They've been managing it on their own. They said a lot of persons in this community have fallen sick, and they are elderly people because, according to them, they bought this home and they have lived here for over 3 decades.
Buildings, bus is even parked there. These buildings are still there, but there's water in between everywhere. People walk through the water in this area, and it looks very, very, very absolutely unhealthy. Do we have children around here?
We have children. Very unhealthy. We have children who go to school from here. They live here. They do their businesses here. They eat their food here. Even as I speak with you, the flats in front of me, they are actually bailing water out of their rooms. And we have the community members here who wants to express how they feel, because they said according to them, even dead animals are being discharged into this place. They ask themselves, how can human beings be living in such a place? They have tried to reach the state government. It seems the state government is slow concerning what they are asking. They are asking that this place should be redeveloped. They said the state government should come and take an audit so that they can find out those who own properties here, because it belongs to them, so that they can assist them to ensure that they get back their property and redevelop this place, instead of just coming to destroy this place and
Community
chase them
members,
away.
you can have a chat with them.
Hello, sir. Can we meet you? Your name? Please be loud.
Mr. Adewuni.
Okay, tell us the challenges that you face in this community. When did you start staying in this community?
I've been here some years back.
Shout.
Actually, the state of the estate is not it's bad, and we are not even happy the way it is now. And we have been wishing the government to come to our aid. And it's like they don't even bother with the life of people that are living here. And it's not even encouraging for government that is in Lagos State, where people are living, and even we rely on them much. That Lagos State, as it is, they used to rally around their people, but as particular this estate, the phase 3 estate, it's like government is not even ready to do anything with us. We've been trying to meet the officials, particularly the Lasura officials that are in charge of the estates. Nothing has been done, and you can see the state of the estate as it is now. Human beings are living there, small children, even in terms of health-wise, it is not encouraging at all. And we have been appealing, even as I'm still talking now, we are still appealing to government to come to our aid. Look at the way it is now. Can we call this place an estate? It is actually bad. So we are appealing to them to come into our aid again, so that people can be happy with the government.
watching live on Facebook, you can see the resident of Adeniji, Adele, speaking to us via the phone and also over the camera. And our correspondent Joy Kalio is there. An overview of that environment shows you water logged in between houses because of the continued rainfall, and the water is going nowhere, practically.
Absolutely. Joy, can you hear me, Joy?
Yes, Sheriff. Yes, Sheriff.
Whether this is a once-in-a-year occurrence or the water just doesn't go anywhere all through the year.
Is this once-in-a-year occurrence or?
Actually, before, it's not like this. But as time fast running and the thing has been extended to other places due to the submerge of the lagoon, which has been extended to the exit now. And government is the one that can do they should come to the now. So, but as it is now, by the time the water goes down, the thing will come back. But when the water is full at the lagoon, the thing extends.
Comes over from the lagoon.
From the lagoon,
How
right.
often do you experience this?
I mean, yearly. But when the rain added to it, it's become another thing again.
Thank you very much, Joy. We need to move up to Abuja now. Joy, thank you so much for that report. This report will be on our social media handles. You can watch it again later and see that environment. It's Adeniji Adele here in the heart of Lagos Island, where water spilling over from the lagoon is stagnated right there within the buildings, and you can see people walking through water to go about their daily activities. We'll be speaking with the Director General of Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency in a moment in Abuja. Joy Kalio, thank you very much for that report. Okay, I guess we lost connection with her there. Well, moving over to Abuja, you'll also be able to watch the Director General, Engineer Clement Nze, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency in a moment. He's standing by in our studios in Abuja. Mr. Desmond, Adeniji Adele, I'm not sure if you were able to watch where you are, but I mean, between the houses, water everywhere, people were practically walking through water to go about their activities. And we know that quite a number of houses had collapsed on Lagos Island. It looks like these ones are also high risk.
Exactly. You know, one's heart goes out to these people. When they first moved there, they didn't have this problem. And this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. You know, nature has put in specific systems. And one of those systems is the marshlands, what we call poto. Maybe because it's a bit of a derisory term, we don't consider the value. It's extremely valuable ecologically, and it prevents flooding. But when you do sand filling anyhow and don't have adequate drainage systems, you're going to have this kind of thing, and it's going to create all sorts of disasters. But there is a ray of hope, because I have actually observed that Lagos State, this new dispensation, have actually put in what appear to be a few very responsible people in some of those key areas. I've met them. They're aware of the problems. They're speaking the right speak. They're talking the right talk. Now we're looking for them walking that talk. And if they do, it's not too late to save places like Adeniji, Adele, you know, just get in the right kind of drainages. And can you imagine, you know, I saw some pictures of some of the drainages that were there before. Some of them had been purposefully blocked by people who wanted to use the land further down to do development. I saw a picture with about 200 tires had just been poured into one of the big drains there.
Wow.
So that can you imagine? And this was done under the eyes of the previous government in Lagos State. So the new guys, I think, you know, they realize it's a very daunting task. The last picture I saw of our current governor, his shoulders were a little bit bent, and I'm not surprised, because the load he's carrying is not a small load at all. Lagos is a mega city with a lot of mega problems, but they're talking the right talk. And this is very, very encouraging.
Indeed.
We need emergency measures.
Let me quickly quote this because we need to go on a break right now, Mr. Desmond. According to Quartz Africa, Quartz says, given its low-lying position next to the Atlantic Ocean, Africa's most populous city, that is Lagos, is susceptible to the negative impacts of climate change. Lagos consists of a mainland and a series of islands with an estimated population of 21 million, some of whom live on waterfront slums with no proper drainage or water systems. With heavy rainfalls and rising sea levels, these slums residents and many middle to upper middle income neighborhoods are vulnerable to flooding. And that is exactly what Lagos residents are experiencing today. Just a couple of days ago, the rain that fell, we all actually saw what happened in some parts of the state. We're due for a break. Let's go on a break. When we return, we have further conversation with Engineer Clement Enze, the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, Desmond Majekodumi, environmental activist and founder, Lufasi Nature Park, will also still remain on the line with us. Join us in a moment. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
And I'm Wemimo Adewuni. We'll be back in a moment.
Your number one talk news and sports station. This is the Morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff.
You're welcome back to the show. It's the Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Today is World Tsunami Awareness Day. The list of countries, 11 countries which are currently regarded as sinking cities, 11 cities which are sinking and facing the danger of disappearance. You have Jakarta, Indonesia. Next, Lagos in Nigeria. I'll just leave the rest. Let's stay with Lagos, Nigeria. It's a sinking city and faces a danger of disappearance. World Tsunami Awareness Day takes a look at warning and mitigation systems that could help avert tsunami and other issues of flooding and climate issues. We will be joined shortly from our Abuja studios. If you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube, you can also watch this. Engineer Clement Nze, Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. We have on the phone Mr. Desmond Majakodumi, who's an environmental activist and the founder of Lufasi Nature Park. Thanks for holding the line, sir.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. We need to get the information out there.
That's right. On Facebook, we have a comment. I couldn't pass this over. Desunex Adebayo says, good morning, everyone in the studio. I think I saw this one coming, most especially in some of these areas. I stayed in this area in the 90s behind those buildings. This is the lagoon. And after the Lagos State started sand filling Ilubiri, this is the outcome. So for those of you who watched that report by Joy Kaliu from Adeniji Adele, where water is stagnated between the buildings after the sand filling done by the state government in that area.
Mr. Desmond, I am particularly concerned about the level of awareness of the citizenry. People in that report that we did earlier on with our correspondent Joy Kaliu, you could hear the residents that we spoke with saying that they've appealed to the government. Sometimes it takes more than appealing to the government. It takes a whole lot, even the involvement of residents of these coastal communities to safeguarding their own property and their lives as well. So in your professional opinion, how would you rate the awareness level of Nigerians to the effect and realities of climate change? It's here. It's right here, living with us.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's not really where it needs to be, because climate change is no longer referred to in the United Nations as climate change. The United Nations call it the climate emergency, the climate crisis. And it has been described as the biggest threat that is facing humanity right now. And so, it's like your house is on fire and you're not really aware that the house is on fire. This is not acceptable. We need to really, really create more awareness. And that's why I love this particular radio station. You people have been trumpeting this for quite some time now. We need to have far, far more awareness about it. The awareness level is far too low. And whilst, people say, we have enough bad news and all this, well, sometimes it takes a common problem to bring out the goodness in all of us.
Right.
When we're faced with a common problem, and we know that this problem could affect all of us very badly, it could affect our children, then we all come together and bring out the best of our qualities to solve the problem. It's a problem that is going to be massive if we allow it to continue much longer. The scientists have told us we've got about 10 years to really tackle it. Otherwise, after 10 years, it could get out of hand and it could become irreversible and catastrophic. But we still have time to tackle it.
How can we tackle it? We know we've asked states, Lagos, for instance, there's a lot the state can do, but is that something individuals can do? Many times we feel hopeless in this situation. Some parts of Lagos already have disappeared. They're no longer there. So if Lagos is regarded as a sinking city, that's pretty scary news for me. I mean, and at the risk of disappearance, maybe I should go and buy a plot of land in my village or something.
Or learn how to swim very, very well.
Learn how to swim. Which areas in Lagos would you say is top on with this red alert? Which areas in Lagos? I know the island areas will be mostly affected, but which specific areas, and what can the residents there do now?
That's a very, very, very good question. One of the most threatened areas is actually the coastline along Lekki, all the way from Victoria Island, all the way down till you get to the lagoon that leads into Ekpe. That's seriously threatened because it's also being badly eroded. There's a lot of erosion there. But we're creating a lot of awareness, and we're trying to, again, ensure that we get federal support. Lagos State government are aware of it, and I do believe they're going to take the necessary action. If they don't, the economic impact of just, some of the serious floods that could take place in Lekki would be in the trillions of naira. Trillions, Remediation would cost a lot, but federal government do have the money. The ecological fund is there, the money is there, and this is the specifically things that the ecological fund are meant for. And if they're not going to give Lagos the commensurate derivation, as far as I'm concerned, we should be getting 15% from our ports, 15% from the VAT, but that's conversation for another day. What can the individuals do? Individuals should just be very, very careful about the way we throw our waste. I mean, that's one thing that causes a lot of floods, is we just, throw the plastic anyhow, it gets up in the drain can't do the job, and we now have the flooding. That's one of the immediate things. There should be no excuse, no justification for throwing waste anyhow, for just throwing plastic onto the street anyhow, And we hold the government agencies accountable. If they're not coming to pick up the rubbish, then we hold them accountable.
Right.
And if they're not doing the right thing in the right way, well, we make sure that they do.
Again, Desmond, let's talk about the individuals, because you landed with individuals. So let's keep on, especially on that track. So individuals, you're saying that they should do the right thing by maintaining their waste. Waste management should be top notch for them. And you mentioned the areas, the Lekki, Victoria Island, the coastal areas around that has been susceptible to flooding. But these same individuals are being blamed for erecting houses on water channels, not building their drainages properly. These same individuals are in government who fail to regulate building construction, in these areas. In other words, nobody actually paid attention to how structures were erected. Nobody gave these structures proper monitoring when they're being built. We spoke to some government agencies the other day when we were discussing planning, and they said that even when they monitored, they sanctioned, these people overnight will just put up a building before you know it. So our question, our problem is kind of multi-dimensional, don't you think?
Yes, it's absolutely multidimensional. But in all fairness, we've been observing this. We've been in this game for quite some time now. I've been an environmental activist for over 40 years, So we are observing it. And to be honest, during the Fashola regime, there was far more concern and monitoring, and the drainage systems were put in place. Then I don't know, something happened. Things sort of fell apart after that, And now we're hoping that with this new dispensation, who seem to be far more cognizant and, far more tuned into the realities of the situation, it won't be business as usual. And, from the few conversations I've had with some of them, I don't think it will be. I think we're going to see some real action, but there needs to be, and people need to take this very, very seriously. There's an adage that whatsoever a man sow, so surely shall he reap.
This looks like what is happening right now. I feel like all the signboards in Lagos should have sinking city, red alert, sinking city. Maybe we'll take this more seriously. But we're heading over to Abuja now. We'll hold you a moment, Mr. Desmond, to speak with Engineer Clement Nze, who's the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. He's joining us via the phone and also online. That means if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, and you should be doing that, by the way, you would be able to watch him also. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning.
Good morning,
to you, sir. Can you hear us clearly? So if you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube, you can also see Engineer Clement Nze joining us on the show. He is, like I mentioned earlier, the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. Sir, you put out a red alert yesterday. Tell us those states that would be affected. You listed 5 states in the country. Like someone said, it's November. Shouldn't flooding be over now?
Thank you so much for having me. what about the issue of flooding, even up to the month of November within Nigeria? Actually, yes, I mentioned the 5 states. But then, Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, and Kogi are already having their own share of the flooding as we speak now. Where I mentioned the other 5 states I mentioned are downstream Kogi State. It may not have reached them. These are Edo, Delta, Anambra, Rivers, and Bayelsa. So the flood that occurred in Adamawa some weeks ago, they are cascading down to all these other states who possibly do not be aware of what is coming to them. So 5 states, they already have 4. Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, and Kogi that already heavily submerged or experiencing losses due to flooding.
Engineer, when you issue these alerts, do you relate directly with the concerned state governments, or you just do this press conference hoping that they will pick up the warning?
Actually, one of the major mandates of the agency is that of prediction and the issuance of early warning with regards to flooding in the country. Where we usually issue it for the onset of flooding or very quick. That's when we usually issue warning.
Okay.
The public release. We did it in April this year. While doing it, the public presentation, we invite all the state governments. Relevant organizations, stakeholders. We bring them into focus at the public presentation done in Abuja by the Honorable Minister of Water Resources. So the states are always involved. There are what we call the state emergency management agencies that are involved.
Right.
Ministers of Environment will bring them into focus. They are part of it. But what happens at most of the time, the response is too poor. In terms of
it is obviously poor.
Hello?
It is obviously poor. In August, you also put out a red alert and said 15 states are at risk of flooding. I mean, like you mentioned, there was a warning in April, there was one in August, and then you put out another yesterday regarding 5 states. I mean, obviously there is poor response from the states, which means they probably don't understand the importance or the import of what is really going on and what is happening. And looking at where the water is coming from, I think which is where we should be dealing, what we should be dealing with. Where is this water coming from? According to the report that you let out in August, the flood from the upper reaches of the Niger Basin, which you have Guinea, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Chad, and Cameroon, would be arriving in Nigeria. That was a warning given in August that the waters will be arriving in a month's time. This is a yearly occurrence. Is that something the country, Nigeria, can do to work with these other countries to find a way to mitigate the flooding from the release of their waters?
Okay. Yes, you rightly mentioned the countries that are at the upper catchment of Nigeria. There is a good collaboration among these countries under what we call Niger Basin Authority, where the equitable utilization of the water resources of the basin is being carried out. So there is a good understanding between the countries. But apart from that, Nigeria has, understanding with different countries, like we should be there with the Cameroon under what we call joint commission.
Okay.
Where we discuss the bilateral issues among ourselves. That's Nigeria Cameroon joint commission, Nigeria Niger joint commission. Apart from the global relationship we have under the Niger Basin Authority of 9 countries. Now, when the issue was, flood alert was given in August, in a press conference, our agency alerted that the flood coming from these countries will be arriving around the middle of September. That will cause a river flooding. There are centers of flooding, river flooding, urban to flash flooding, and then coastal flooding. Before then, around that August, we were experiencing urban flooding, coastal flooding, and we were still expecting out of river flooding coming from Guinea, Mali, Niger, and so on and so forth. So that was engaged a lot. Now, the recent one that is happening was occasioned by the release of excess water from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. The dam was built between 1977 and 1982. While it was under construction, they advised Nigeria that is downstream River Benue to build their own buffer dam in the event of what happened in 2012 to happen anytime. That dam will be with techniques. But unfortunately in Nigeria, that dam wasn't built yet. It was proposed, designed to be as Basin Hausa, a community in Fufu, the local government area in Adamawa State. Now, what has been done? On the River Niger axis, Nigeria has some relief, as it were, because we have Kainji and Jeba Dam on River Niger. In August 31st, there was a red alert in Mali, in Niamey, Niger Republic, that the flood level has reached a red alert zone. We were alerted, and they had to inform the managers of Kainji and Jeba Dam. We informed that they knew what to do, and they did it. So, no flooding was experienced from that angle, from the River Niger axis. Okay. But what happened in Cameroon is quite disheartening. We had a subsisting memorandum of understanding between Nigeria and Cameroon with regard to the Benue sub-basin, especially with regard to Lake Nyon, the Pontus Lake in Cameroon, and also Lagdo Dam. So in the event of anything happening, they should notify Nigeria ahead of time. But unfortunately, Cameroon authorities didn't notify us in the spirit of the MOU signed between the two countries in 2014. So I kept touch with the authorities. When we saw the rising flood level in Adamawa State about 2 weeks ago, they denied that they never released the water from the dam. Then I had to post to them both the video clips and the pictures of what we have seen in Adamawa State at Taraba. Because they hold up that actually they opened the gate October 10th. And that was causing the current of flooding in Nigeria in the month of November.
What could have been responsible for this delay? Because if there was an understanding between Nigeria and Cameroon that whenever they want to release water from Lagdo Dam, they will put us in the know. But even at first they denied it, and they knew that they had released the water, and not until you provided proof before they now owed. So my question is, what could have been responsible for this? Why did they deny? Why didn't they want to tell us that they were going to release water from the dam?
Please put on top of that question, what can Nigeria do? There is an agreement on the table. Anything that affects the country should be taken seriously. If they're resigning on their part of the bargain, what can we do to hold Cameroon responsible?
Exactly.
Okay, it is a bilateral issue, and I think Nigerian government will take it up at the diplomatic level.
Okay.
As to why the authorities in the dam didn't notify us as concerned in the speech and the letter or the memorandum of understanding. I don't know. I can't explain what is the word. I can't explain what is the word. They defaulted in that. I recall that in 2012, they gave us notice, but about 3 days to the day, they mentioned they had to open their gate earlier than the date they already mentioned, because the dam was already overwhelmed. So they couldn't wait till the date they gave us in 2012 and they opened the gate.
Wow.
So, and that time, to us professional as an engineer, when we say what they did then was the best they could do by opening the gate before the time they gave us. Because if the dam should have breached,
it should have been worse.
far worse than that. Yes, you have to open their gate.
But on our own end, have we built these buffers that you mentioned earlier? In the case where their hands are also tied and they need to open the dams, what have we done? I mean, 2012 was 7 years ago. What have we done in that time to protect our own end? What can we do? You're an engineer, sir.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is not a straightforward answer as it were. One, I'm among those who advocate for this, or who say that Nigeria is underdammed. We don't have enough dams in Nigeria. If we compare our land mass, our water potentials, and the other countries of our own size, we don't have enough dams in Nigeria. Dams serve purposes of flood control, irrigation facilities, hydropower, and so many other functions or purposes for the dam. So coming to Nigeria, we don't have enough dams. And on River Benue Avenue, there is no single dam in Nigeria on the River Benue. Yes, we have Katindila Dam on the River Kasinala. There is another one on the Asidi. So there are which are tributaries of the Benue. We don't have dams on River Benue. So what can be done to checkmate it? One is a long-term issue. If Nigeria could build that in Helsa Dam, about 16 billion cubic meters of water, which is more than twice the capacity of Lagdo Dam, 7.6 billion cubic meters of Lagdo Dam. So if Nigeria could have been able to build that in Helsa Dam in Nigeria, 16.13 billion cubic meters, it is capable to contain whatever is coming from Cameroon in the event of even if we are dam collapse in Cameroon, our own can contain it.
Right.
The big question on my end of the table is, we know what to do. We have not done it. Cameroon has resigned on their own end of the agreement on this, at least in this October, and we still see the floods right now in November. Nigeria has not held them responsible. We need to take a few comments, though we have just a few minutes left. But a quick thought on this, Mr. Madia-Kodumi, just a few thoughts on what Engineer Nze has shared with us.
Yes, well, I just want to say, thank God for people like Engineer Nze, who brings a wealth of experience. And I entirely agree with him that there needs to be far more action. But I would just like to ask him that the type of dam systems that we're developing these days, we've been told that these massive dams, while they solve problems in the immediate, they give you a lot of extra water and so on, but in the long term, they cause a lot of disruption. So would he not subscribe to the fact that we should go into more ecological friendly, smaller dam systems? That's my suggestion to him.
Engineer Nze, quick thoughts on that. Mr. Madia-Kodumi is an environmentalist, is an activist, and is asking, can we do more ecologically friendly dams that can help us in the long run? Is there any plan for that?
That's what we have been seeking. Each time we go public, presenting our flood outlook, how the flooding pattern will be in the country at the beginning of the year. We have spoken it severally. We were not able to go building large dams. Large dams are dams that are about 15 meters and above in terms of the height.
Okay.
We can build small earth dams in the River Benue Avenue, for instance. There are so many tributaries of the Benue. We have a Kasinala River, which contributes about 27% of water in the Benue. There's a dam there, which we call Katindila Dam. But it's not being properly utilized with regards to flood control. For instance, it was built basically to checkmate any flooding coming from Lake York. In fact, Lake York should break, like it happened in 1986, Lake York. When it threw up some poisonous gases into the river that it killed so many animals. So that's why what gave back to the Katindila Dam in Taraba. Such a dam, if it is properly utilized, before the flooding season in the country, like around July, you could more or less empty that dam, empty it as it were, or reduce the level of the reservoir. So that during the peak of flooding in Nigeria, in that sector, you block it to trap whatever is coming from there to reduce the amount of water entering into the Benue.
That's it.
You can also build more earth dams. More earth dams on Donga River, Mayo KV, there are of them Taraba. More dams that will reduce the volume of water entering into the Benue.
Right.
Then we begin to contain whatever comes down from the main river channel from Cameroon.
Absolutely.
That will go a long way to.
So who is responsible for building all these dams, sir?
I believe strongly that the state government can do those more earth dams within their territory. State government should be able to do them. Or maybe in the assistance of I know that some time ago, in terms of water resources, a number of earth dams were proposed, per zone, for just cold zones in the country. Such could be targeted towards the flood control, especially in those flood-prone areas in Nigeria.
These invaluable suggestions and advice you've raised this morning, do these concerned state governors or governments know?
Come again.
These dams that you have proposed this morning right now concerning those affected states, do the state governments know that they can actually control this flooding by building up these smaller dams?
Oh.
We have said it several times. But I was at before the governor's forum that president said, something happened, I won't able to go there. So it is important they can do that. And again, water is a very huge resource. We have it in abundance in Nigeria. And we waste it. It's very painful to some of us who are water managers. Now, the amount of water that comes from outside Nigeria, from River Benue, from River Niger, maybe annually, not more than about 60 billion liters of fresh water. Combined together, Niger and Benue. But by the time this water is leaving Nigeria to empty the Atlantic Ocean, you are losing over 200 billion liters of fresh water annually.
Wow. No.
Now, we keep advocating that why should we see such a gold mine passing through your territory?
Abi?
You are letting them to go away. Why can't you build the reservoir? Channel this water outside the main channel of the river. Build the reservoir outside. Like, in terms of people who know about that, what we call like Jabi Lake. It's an artificial something.
Yeah, the Jabi Lake, yeah.
You can, along the path in your own state, begin to do diversion structure. Where you can convey this excess water and arrest it somewhere.
And just divert
Engineer Uze, would have to have you back on the show. I mean, all of these solutions that you have preferred. My question always is, we know what the answers are. Why do we refuse to then do them? We're sorry we can't take your calls this morning. The conversation is so much. We had to speak with Engineer Clement Nze. Don't worry, he will be back. I would make sure, I hope that he would oblige us and come back so we can trash out this issue. And we'll also get on from the Ministry of Water Resources. He's mentioned a lot about how we can convert this water into things that we can use in Nigeria. There's water scarcity. There's this water then causing flooding and wasting all over the place. We'll be back. Engineer Clement Nze, thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Crossfire today.
Thank you so much.
He's the Director General Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. Mr. Desmond Madekodumi, environmental activist and the founder Lufasi Nature Park. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Remember, water no get enemy. So let's be more friendly.
Unless you make it one. Thank you all for joining the show today. We've been live on Facebook and YouTube. If you missed any part of the show, go over and watch it again. We thank Toby in Abuja, Philip Nweli, head of news, Tosi Akerede, Yvonne Khafor, and Zainab Yakin, also Babatunde Abdusalami for all making the show amazing. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning. Have a swell day. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I am Sharif Quadry.